Hi, you guys. My name is Sarah Bradley, and I am the founder of our music, entertainment, and pop culture digital media brand, Setlist Media, along with my co-host, Nevin Bertotti, who is Setlist's artist and brands relations manager. This Mental Health Month, we are speaking with a friend of the podcast and a friend of Setlists, who not only has had a long-standing career in social media, but has also taken a path to help others through a life coaching business. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. This is the Guest List Podcast. Our guest today started her YouTube channel and personal brand, BeautyChickee, at just 12 years old and has consistently stayed in the creator space since 2011.
Today, she's taken her time in the limelight in a new direction, empowering young women, including those who have followed her social media journey as a CTA certified life coach with a focus on dating and relationships, also specializing in overcoming anxiety, procrastination, and perfectionism, and lifestyle and wellness.
She's seen Setlist Media and the Guest List podcast in many phases over the past couple of years, and we are so honored and excited to welcome Christina Harris.
Oh my God, what an intro, guys. Thank you so much. I'm
Oh my God, of
excited to
course,
be
only the best.
here.
Only the best for you, Miss Ma'am.
Of course.
Oh my God. Okay, well, yeah, welcome again. We're so stoked to
Yeah.
have you. And I guess let's start back at the beginning, creating BeautyChickee, because I know we've talked a little bit about how you started and just the channel in general and how that's grown, but why don't you give the listeners a little bit of insight into your journey as a content creator and YouTuber?
Totally. Yeah, I've had a really long journey with social media. But yeah, like you said at the beginning, since 2011 is when I started my YouTube channel. Um, I wish I had more of a crazy come up story for BeautyChickee than I actually do. But I just watched at that time, like the YouTubers that were really popular that I loved were like Michelle Phan and like those like sorts of people, like Olga K, all of them. And I really loved the beauty space specifically. Like I said, big Michelle Phan fan. And, I was like, 12 years old and just messing around with my webcam. And, she was my inspiration. I just wanted to make little makeup tutorials like she did. I didn't know what I was doing because I was like 12 years old. But yeah, I just naturally just started like filming myself and I would just keep them on my computer. And then one day I decided I was going to make a YouTube channel and upload them. For the like name inspiration, I don't even know how I came up with it. I wish I like remembered better, but like I said, I was so young. All I do remember is that I attempted to do BeautyChickee with a Y instead of a double E on YouTube, and it said it was taken, so I did the double E, and then it worked, and so it ended up becoming my whole brand. But yeah, so that was kind of how I started. I was just kind of, I was just young, uploading for funsies. At that time, being a content creator, YouTuber, influencer, whatever you want to call it, like did not exist. So I was just literally doing it for the love of the game. I didn't even know you could like make money off of it or anything. And then yeah, just over the years, I was just growing a lot. Like I just started to get a lot of traction. I had like a summer morning routine from like 2012 or something or 2013 that went super viral. And that kind of gave me like a little bit more of like a push into YouTube's algorithm. And then yeah, I don't even know. I had a very slow and gradual growth on YouTube, but it allowed me to build such a like diehard fan base, like a really loyal fan base. And then from there, YouTube was always my biggest platform, but I ended up, I started a solo podcast. I did tours 2 years in a row, which was it was kind of like a cross between like stand up and like a talk show. So I did that. I started moving kind of out of the beauty space and more into just lifestyle and just general entertainment, more like story times and, funny things like that. That was how I started. And then, from there, everything just kind of grew. So yeah, long-winded answer.
We love it though. Yeah, I mean, you have been in this space for a minute. What are some of the biggest changes in like the content and the media world that you've seen over time?
Like I said, when I first started, like becoming a influencer, content creator, any of those things didn't exist. It wasn't like something that people pined after. I think over time, people have become just way more, accepting of these kinds of, jobs, essentially, of, being content creators. Like it's taken just like a lot more seriously now. Like people grow up saying, like, I want to be a content creator and really going for it. And that was just simply not the case when I was, coming up. There's just like, it's just so different. There's a lot of money to be made. And, like, I do feel like, there's been a lot of pros and cons with it, like I think there's like a con of like oversaturation now, but also it's just, I think people are just doing things a lot more freely, speaking their minds freely. A lot of people aren't as afraid to put themselves out there anymore, to grow. So yeah, I mean, there's just been, as much as there's been like a lot of positives to it, there's also like been some, negatives. Like I said, like I think also there is such thing as like, the overconsumption of media, like I said, the oversaturation of it. And, it kind of spewing into people's, offline personas as well. But yeah, it's changed so drastically. I just think a lot more people like take it more seriously now, I guess, than like when I started. When I started, it was just like, I was made fun of in high school for like creating YouTube videos. Like it was just like, oh, the like weirdo thing to do. That's like not the case at all anymore. Like 80% of people are like, I want to be a creator, which is just so insane to me.
That kind of goes into our next topic. You talked about just now how in, school you would be made fun of, get bullied for making these videos. How do you think that social media impacts mental health? I feel like this is, with your
Mm-hmm.
current career path and it being Mental Health Awareness Month, I think this is a really great topic for us to hear from
Mm-hmm.
you about.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it impacts it the most, honestly. Like, and it has. I think a lot of kids are starting to use social media younger and younger and younger now, which is when they're their most impressionable, where they're seeing these things online that are maybe not okay, and they all of a sudden think it's okay, or like of course, you got people, a lot of women talking about, like cosmetic procedures and everything. And as much as like the openness about those topics is incredible, it also could rub off on, a lot of young women's self-confidence and how they view themselves. And, it's the typical people used to talk about all the time about how these like picture perfect billboards used to play into women's insecurities. And now it's, just a day of my life, a video that might do it. Also, social media is such a big facade. Also, people get to curate the life that they want to share on there. So I think that could play into people's brains of, they could be doing perfectly fine in their lives, but they feel as though, they're not doing something right because social media says that they should be doing this or they should be thinking this way, or, they need to, change this thing about themselves to be a better person, or, in which I think there's a lot of like educational things on social media that could definitely sway people's minds. I think there's also a lot of bad things out there that, one of the things, in my practice, I do a lot of dating and relationship stuff. And one of the number one things is, that I see is people putting out very harsh dating advice on the internet that just simply does not apply to a lot of people's regular, romantic relationships, friendship relationships, all of those things. And I think that could be a little bit, have just like a negative impact also because, every relationship is so different. And just because some girl on the internet is like, oh, if he doesn't get you flowers, like, break up with him, he doesn't love you. That's not the case for all relationships. People show their love in different ways. I worry about like the mental health of like little girls basically, and like starting on social media at younger ages and being very impressionable, and, people putting out these facades of these picture perfect lives, these very curated lives that aren't realistic to the everyday life. So, yeah. I'm like, I'll cap it at that, I think.
Beautiful.
Alongside that, are there any like specific things that you've noticed or experienced as a creator in the public eye when it comes to like mental health and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that I mean, in terms of things I've noticed, I think like as it applies to like other creators and whatnot, I think one of the big things, that a lot of people talk about is like cancel culture. And I've noticed what's it called? kind of like a lack of empathy in a sense. Because there are people that do very shitty things, and I think we definitely need to hold them accountable for their shitty things. But also, I do think a lot of people online are quicker to hate than they are to love, and they're quicker to jump on a bandwagon without knowing a full story about something. And so, I think that plays a lot into mental health. Also, I'm a big believer that people change every single day. You're not the same person that you were yesterday. You're not the same person that you were a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. And so, I think that as much as we should be holding people accountable for their actions, we need to think a little bit more of like, if somebody did something years ago and it resurfaced, depending on what it is. Obviously, we don't support any like crazy, remarks that people have made or anything. But I think people just change so much. And I think people on the internet are forgetting that people change and that, something maybe that they said years ago does not apply to their character now. And I think it's like an unfair thing to make a judgment call on somebody for something they said or did 7, 8 years ago when they were younger versus now. Like the world has changed so much. We've changed so much. We've become more knowledgeable over time, like especially like as you go throughout like your 20s, you start to, just your thought patterns change so much. And yeah, so I think like as it like pertains like things that like I've just like noticed is, yeah, like I said, I don't know if a lack of empathy is exactly the way to put it, but I think there's like a time and place to hold people accountable for the things that they've done. And I think that also because like, maybe somebody did or said something unfavorable like 8 years ago doesn't necessarily mean that they're the exact same person, and that we need to be like, all right, like, has this person changed? Do we see a change in them? Is this something that's in their character right now? And I think it's just, a lot of people love to like get on the train of hate, essentially. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, it's like because the biggest thing in that we notice is like the cancel culture stuff, and that's kind of like the big take about it. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And
totally.
I do want to get into your journey of life coaching a little bit. But while we're
Mm.
on the topic, has your perspective on the impact of media changed as you've kind of pursued helping others and gone through with your life coaching business?
Yeah, absolutely. I primarily coach young women, which, like I said before, are the most impressionable people, young girls, young women. And, I have clients that come to me all the time and they tell me that they've seen this thing online and now they're anxious about this thing that they're thinking about, or, somebody on their internet saying this, or, somebody, oh, like somebody unfollowed them, or, like something weird or whatever. We're so just like deep in our phones. And the older I get, the more I understand like the older generations being like, it's that damn phone, because like it really is sometimes, like, so I notice it in my coaching practice like on a weekly basis. Like I said, a lot of it with like the dating advice of like, girls coming to me being like, oh, well, I saw somebody have this like take online and now I'm like questioning everything about my relationship. And sometimes, yes, it's great to be able to see what other people are saying and like apply that to your life to be like, all right, like, am I truly in a relationship that feels good for me or not, or whatever? But also, I just don't think it's like that black and white. And I think it's just a lot of what's being put in the media is creating just like a lot of anxiety in so many of these young women now. And then they come to me and they're like, I saw this thing online and now I'm overthinking this and this is happening and blah, 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 blah. And, obviously it's my job to kind of bring them back down to earth and give them the facts of the situation and be like, that's all, like, the social media world, it's a completely different world than what we're living in now. Like, what's your reality right now? What is your real life right now? And also, what is it that you want and what works for you, and not what this person on TikTok is telling you works.
Could not have said it better. That's
Yeah.
why this is your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh my
Listen, I
God.
love my job. So, but
As you should. I'm so grateful that this is your job because
yeah.
clearly you've helped me out so much over the past couple of years. And we've talked a little bit about kind of how you got to this point and how you decided to get into life coaching and helping other people with all the things that you specialize in. But if you want to kind of just maybe touch on that in your kind of like overall journey towards where you're at,
Yeah.
that could be really cool.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no. So after a very long-winded career in social media, and also just going through like a lot of significant life changes myself, I hired my own life coach. At the time when I hired her, I felt like life coaching was a better fit for me than therapy was at the time. So I took it and ran with it. And my life coach literally changed my life. She helped me like so much. She helped me through some of the most like traumatic things that I experienced. Like, forever grateful for her. And then over the years of doing social media, I started to feel both just very unfulfilled by being in the space for so long. It started to feel just like a little sterile for me. And then also, I started to realize that through my podcast, I was kind of accidentally reteaching things that I had learned through my years of coaching. So then when I started thinking about making a career change or at least doing something outside of social media, like social media just started to feel very unfulfilling. And I was like, I need something that feels like I'm really giving back and that like my soul is being like fulfilled, that I'm helping people, and I was thinking really hard about it for a long time. And then eventually one day I woke up and I was like, maybe I should go for my coaching certification. I started to think about it more and more and sit on it. And I talked to some people about it and they all agreed. They were like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense for you. So yeah, so then I did a lot of research and chose a school and went back and got my life coaching certification. And then, over the years of coaching, found out what my specialties were and my niches and started to niche down from there. And yeah, I just started to feel a lot more fulfilled. Like I felt like I was really just like giving back and helping people through things. And, I'm just like a yapper too. It was like the perfect career path for me. But yeah, no, now I've been doing it for like 3 years and I love it. I love it so much. It feels so fulfilling. And I've been looking into furthering it more. And so I'm going back to school this fall for social work to get my master's. So eventually I will also be a social worker. Yeah, which will be really great. And that will just kind of broaden what I'm going to be able to like talk about, the type of clients I'm going to be able to take on. And yeah, just kind of a lot of people's like things that are going on that I'm going to be able to help them through. So it's been just so fulfilling for me to the point that I'm like, I just want to keep learning more and I want to be able to help people more and more and more. And so, yeah, I think it was like 3 years of coaching and I love it, but I was kind of, at a point where I'm like, what's next? So that's kind of the future of it. So yeah, I just have never felt like so fulfilled in a career basically, but yeah, it's how we got to where I am.
Wait, Christina, girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. Oh my God.
Thank you. It's something I haven't really like discussed with like too many people yet because it's going to be like a long way. Like this fall, I'm just going to be going back to school literally just for like some liberal arts before I'm able to even apply for the social work program at the school that I'm going to. But then from there, the hope is that I get into that program that I really want. And then from there, it's going to be in total for like a master's. It's going to be around like 4 to 4.5 years. And then for my like clinical license, it should be like around like 7 years. So yeah, so it's going to be a long journey, but I'm happy that I'm starting while I am. I'll be like completely set by like 35. So yeah,
Oh, that's amazing.
Which for me is still young. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited. But yeah, it's just another thing to further the career. So yeah.
With your life coaching and coaching clients who are also creators and or building their music entertainment businesses, what is that like? How does that work for you?
Luckily, because I already have a background in social media and just in general, the entertainment industry for that matter, it helps a lot when I'm coaching clients when it comes to career things and when it specifically comes to entertainment careers, music careers, social media careers, all of those things. Because I get to pull a little bit in from both my life coaching side and also just my life experience side of being in the industry. So, like, I have a client right now who is trying to grow her social media following, and a lot of our sessions are just filled with, us like really holding her accountable to like how many times a week does she want to post? What does she want to post? Like what is like, what are her niches like of what, she's going to be putting out that like work for her, tracking analytics. Like that's a big thing, like going over analytics every single week. Okay, this thing worked, this thing didn't. Like, like that. So it's almost like a social media content coach in a way also. But also just being in the entertainment industry, and especially if I'm working with somebody that's going to be in the public eye, you also are you're open to public perception, and the public perception that some people might have of you is not going to be great because nobody's perfect and there are trolls on the internet. And like I said, it's easier to hate than it is to love. And obviously being in the space for so long, I've gotten every comment under the sun you could possibly get, and was able to work through it. And now it's something that I'm able to help clients work through that are in the public eye of, if they're getting hate comments or, attacks on their character, anything like that, just being able to talk to them about like, hey, listen, this is just like a person behind a screen. It's easier to hate than it is to love. And you're doing nothing wrong. Like you're literally just a person trying to build their career. That's literally what it is at the end of the day. I also find too, outside of just like creators and people in the public space, I work with a lot of people that are in music business or in music industry jobs. And a big part of that is, the music industry can be very demanding. And so a lot of people that I work with in that, realm need to find the work-life balance really heavily. And a lot of them are, prioritizing work at its fullest, which is really great. But at the same time, you're, work hard, play harder. Like, you have to be able to do your job, do it really great, love what you do. But then also at the end of the day, you need your self-care time. You need your, like non-reschedulable like downtime. So that way you can show up the best that you can at, work. Like, there's people that I work with that are like, wanting to be in the music industry, on the front end of it that are, singers or musicians or whatever. And then I work with a ton of people on the back end, people that are working at like, the big labels and all of that stuff. And, I think it's just really important for them to remind themselves like they are taking on so many, just so much work and burdens. And even, music industry with dealing with like a lot of people, you even sometimes take on that like emotional baggage of other people. So just making sure that they have like, the space to be able to take care of themselves so they can show up the best in the job also. That was a very long-winded answer, but yeah, because there's like two different like sectors of it. There's like entertainment as like a creator, and then like music industry behind the scenes also. So yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned the importance of self-care when you're talking to a lot of your clients that are in these entertainment and music fields. What are some of your favorite ways to unwind and unplug?
Yeah, I think everybody's self-care looks so different. Like, it's not just face masks and, healthy meals or any of that stuff. Like, for me personally, I find a lot of my relaxation in the moments I have with my friends. I consider time with friends self-care because those are the people that really keep me grounded. And even if I've had like, long day of work or, things that are going on, they're the ones that really ground me and I get to feel just very energized by them. So I consider that self-care. And so I'll do that. And then I also have like my general stuff. Like, I love to binge watch a show just as much as the other person. Like the other day, I spent like 8 hours on the couch and watched the Off Campus series. Like I did that all day. So, that I considered my self-care. And then also I am a person that just like loves to do things alone as much as I do love doing it with my friends. So, like I love to take myself on solo dates and, I'll bring my journal with me and I'll just write about, junk journal and, write about how I'm feeling about whatever, just whatever topics come to mind. So yeah, all of those things. I just find a lot of my like self-care both in my friends and also my little solo activities, And then of course I like, the stereotypical things. Like I like my long girly showers where I use every single product under the sun and like, dance around my room to music and all of that stuff as well. So yeah, but I think it's just so everybody's self-care looks so different. You just got to find like what works for you.
What is like your favorite piece of advice that you've received or heard when it comes to caring for your mental health?
That's a really good question. What is the best one that I received? Um, Gosh, I have received or heard like so much advice, but I think actually something that does help me just manage everything really well is I remember when I was in school for coaching, my coaching mentor, professor, whatever you wanted to call her, my teacher basically, um, we had a whole like sector, a whole day where all we talked about was self-care as a coach. And she said to me, like, like you need, and I said it before, you're non-reschedulable, which I don't even know if that's a fucking word. But she was like, you need your non-reschedulable self-care time. It's a tongue twister. But she was absolutely right. Like, I encourage people all the time, like, if setting aside time for self-care is hard for you, put it in your calendar. Like put it in your Google Calendar, your Outlook, your Apple, whatever you use to, track your work stuff and all your other life things. Schedule it in, because seriously, you are going to get so burnt out if you don't put time aside for yourself. And also, there is the classic saying of you need to be selfish before you be selfless. And I think that's a big thing too. Like if you say no to a night out one time because you really need a tried and true reset, then that's going to help you so much more in the long run than just, dragging your feet and, going out there or whatever. But, so I think just like, yeah, like my favorite piece of advice for, like taking care of yourself is like, everybody needs their non-reschedulable self-care time. Sorry, tongue twisters now. I'm like starting over my words, but it's okay. It's part of the beauty of podcasting. But so yeah, I would say that's like a really good piece of advice is like if you have a hard time setting that time aside for yourself, put it in your calendar. Like seriously, make it a task in your calendar as much as you would put like any meeting or work or anything that you have in your calendar. Put your self-care in your calendar. I have like in my GCal, I have a little block for self-care once a week. But then also in my task list, I have a thing that says like I have a journal that I write in, and it's just like a bunch of bucket list things that I want to do in 2026. And some of them are very simple things that I could do literally within like 2 hours, like from home. And I have in my GCal as a task, like pick one thing from your journal and do it this week. And every single week I'll look at my journal, I'll be like, okay, what's one thing from here that I want to do this week for myself to make myself feel good? And then I'll go from there.
Would you mind sharing like one of your goals for this year?
For this year, start school has been a big one. And get that ball on the roll. But yeah, I would say honestly, me going back to school it's something I've been thinking about for an extremely long time, but originally I wanted to go back for psychology. But then after a lot of conversations and a lot of research, I ended up discovering that I was like, you know what, for what I want to do, social work is way like it's just much better of a route for me. So I'd say like my biggest goal of the year is literally just start school, like just start it and like get the ball rolling with that. And yeah, I mean, I also would love to wrap up the year with just like a really like solid client base. Like I have a lot of clients right now that I absolutely love, but I'm also at like a point in my life where I'm like, I could take on more and I could do more. And that's just like where I'm at. So yeah, like my goals of the year. And then I have my little random things. Like I would like love to like get an office space by myself. So I'm not just like working from home. Like I would love to like pay for an office space. So like I have that as like an end of the year goal is like, be able to budget so much that I would be able to like rent out like a different space for myself and, all of that stuff. So yeah. And then I have my like stupid little things, that are just like have nothing to do with my career. Like I really want to try chicken salad chick this year. Never had it before. I want to eat it. So that's like a stupid thing, Like
But that's
like,
good though. Like that's
then,
fun.
yeah, absolutely. I'm like one day I'm gonna go somewhere where it's at. I'm gonna try it. It's
Girl,
like
come to me. It's here.
No,
It's in Georgia.
yeah. Listen, I'm on my way. I have
Good.
like
I'll have the couch ready for you.
perfect. I tell people like when they're like, especially this is a big thing when I do like resolution setting with clients at like the beginning of each year. I always say rather than doing New Year's resolutions, just make like, we're obviously in 2026, like make just a 2026 bucket list. Like literally just a list of things that you want to do, whether it's like actual like big resolutions, like I said, like one of my big ones, go back to school. But then also like you just want your like fun, stupid little things that will give you just doses of joy, you know? And it doesn't have to be some big gigantic thing. It could be as simple as trying a restaurant that you've always wanted to go to, like, you know, things like that. Like one of my ones, the very first week of this year was to go like try this ramen spot that literally is like a 10-minute walk from me, and I did it, like, you know, and that was something that brought me so much joy. Like I went there with my journal alone, journaled, read a book, like, you know, things like that. So I always say, like, rather than resolution setting, bucket list. Like, what are your goals? What do you want to do by the end of the year, even if it's something as small as eating at a restaurant? So yeah.
I love it. And I love you. Thank you so much for coming and
Oh my
talking
god, of
today.
course. Oh my god, no. Honored to be here.
Oh
This
my
was like
God.
so much fun.
Always. You know you're welcome anytime.
Of
I'm gonna give
course.
you the floor if you want to tell everyone where they can find you for social media things, for Christina Harris life
Totally.
coaching. So
Yeah,
the floor is yours for
absolutely.
that.
So, yeah, you can find me on literally any social platform ever at BeautyChickee, just Beauty Chick with the double E at the end. And then you can find my coaching at ChristinaHarrisLifeCoach.com. But I also own a million other domains. So even if you type in Christina Harris Life Coaching, it'll still bring you there. I did that on purpose so that if people mess up the spelling of it, it'll still redirect you to me.
Yes.
So,
Oh my God.
you
I
know,
remember one of the first things we talked about was how much you love your domains.
that's such a random fun fact, but yes, I own so many domains because I just think it's so funny. Like I'm pretty sure I still it redirects. I have like my hotredheadfriend.com. I own that domain and it just redirects to my best friend Lily's Instagram, who's a redhead. Like that's literally like, you know, I love
That's so
little
funny.
things, but yeah, but when I started up my coaching, I just I own like Christina Harris Life Coach, Christina Harris Life Coaching, and then I think ChristinaHarrisCoaching.com. There's like a little bit of everything because I was
Covered
like,
all
all
the
right,
bases.
like you can go anywhere. But anyways, yes, ChristinaHarrisLifeCoach.com is basically where you can find me. I'm at BeautyChickee on literally anything ever. So yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, yay. Thank you
Christina
guys so
Harris,
much.
everybody. Yeah.
Woo! Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina, for coming and chatting with us this month. We loved having you on the podcast, and as you know, you're welcome back anytime. If you guys want to see more from us at Setlist Media, you can find us on social media at Setlist Media on Instagram, Twitter, which is now X, and TikTok. We also have an Instagram page for the podcast, which is at TGL Pod. And if you're watching this, you already know that we are on YouTube and Spotify. This is a really special and important month for us and the topic of mental health. So if you're watching this, know that you are loved, know that you are valued, know that you are important, and we will see you next month. Have a good one, you guys.